Hello everybody. My name is Rishi Jaitly. I'm Twitter's Vice President for Media in Asia Pacific and the Middle East. Our job is to ensure that our audience, the actual users and audience using Twitter, is delighted by the content on Twitter. And as part of that role, what we do is we immerse ourselves in culture and in the media landscape, country to country, to ensure that whether you're a television broadcaster, whether you're a sports federation, whether you're a news organization, whether you're a government agency, you are winning on Twitter. Our view is that Twitter is a mobile microphone. If you are in the audience business, like all of you are, your goal ostensibly is to grow and engage an audience. And our job at Twitter, the organization I oversee, our job is to ensure that any country's most important creators win on Twitter and that we win together. And I have to say that in having been at Twitter for a few years, I haven't seen a country embrace Twitter the way the Philippines has. And so we don't say lightly the idea that we love the Philippines. And it's not just users, but it's certainly news organizations, it's television shows, it's the Pope coming here and tweeting in Tagalog, and many, many others in the media landscape. And what I'm proud of is that 2015 was a breakout year for Twitter in the Philippines. It's hard to have been a user or a publisher on Twitter in the Philippines in 2015 and not feel as though we had reached a tipping point. A tipping point where the audience and the media community really, we clarified how essential we are to storytelling in the Philippines and to the ability of users to converse in real time with anyone in the country. From the Pope's visit, to the Aldub phenomenon, to the Miss Universe moment, to a recent partner, to all kinds of other partnerships. But 2016 will be even bigger. If you think that in 2015, our product and our platform became essential to culture, mass culture, political culture, entertainment culture, etc., you ain't seeing nothing yet. I think in 2016, as you'll see here today, we're poised to see even more immersion. And let me get the clicker here, which I forgot earlier. So that's the gist of what I'm going to talk about. As I said, looking back first, the Pope visited the Philippines in January 2015. We saw 3.3 million tweets, which included, as I'll show you in a bit, a tweet in Tagalog, which performed exceptionally well. We saw in May of last year 2.7 billion global views of tweets during the Maypac match. If you were using Twitter in early May of last year, late April, early May, you could almost hear the roar of the crowd in the Philippines. I myself was searching hashtags and checking tweets from the Philippines. You could hear the roar from the country during that moment. And of course, during the end of December, where were you when you heard the Steve Harvey announcement and then the ultimate correct announcement about Miss Universe? And that moment, of course, generated 6.7 million tweets, and Miss Universe has since escalated her use of Twitter using video and more. Some examples, this is the tweet I was talking about earlier from the Pope. And what this all reflects is, in the Philippines, people are craving live mobile connections to culture. No other platform in the world do you feel that live, real-time connection with mass culture. And just more examples, and we'll have I think we've got a little bit of a video. Everyone remember this tweet? And this one tweet, well, as I mentioned earlier, one tweet was retweeted 35,000 times. And one of the things we say at Twitter is that tweets travel, right? Because we're a public platform, these tweets aren't just visible to those who happen to see it on their phone, but they travel around the world. And last year, tweets from the Philippines went around the world. And I think you'll see more of that in 2016. During the Miss Universe moment, of course, there was a whole lot of tweeting as well. Here, tweets from influencers. It wasn't just the Philippines sharing in this moment, but the world. The beauty of Twitter is when you're sitting and consuming content, consuming live connection of Filipino culture, you're doing it with the celebrity sitting next to you. You're doing it with the American presidential candidate sitting next to you. And again, last year we saw this happen in an unprecedented, unmatched sort of way. And of course, Miss Universe herself, here's a video.
It's a very non-traditional crowning moment, isn't it?
Yes.
It's very 2015.
And one of the things to point out is people in the Filipino mass media landscape, whether you're Miss Universe or Aldub or what, you have choices, right? You have choices around where you publish videos like this. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that I think there's a realization that Twitter is the most powerful place to publish engaging content. Because we're live, because the experience is shared, because the experience is global, and the experience is interactive. And this was tweeted to Twitter that evening itself, or day, depending on where you were. One of the things we've observed about trends and usage in the Philippines, many people describe this as the social media capital of the world. Our users here are highly engaged, and they use Twitter in a way that the rest of the world looks up to. According to Nielsen, 69% of our users connect to Twitter every single day. That's extraordinary and reflects a user base that is engaged, that is passionate, and that is active, which, as Richard talked about, is a highly valuable audience, right? To find an audience that is leaned forward in the conversation day to day. We also see users in the Philippines, as no surprise to you, using Twitter, particularly young millennials, while watching TV. We talked earlier today about Twitter as the second screen for television, Twitter as the companion to any mass media experience. And it's no surprise, particularly in the last 6 months, that young people here, the vast majority, according to Nielsen, are using Twitter and sending tweets while watching TV. They're watching television with the stars, with the channel, with the producers, with the writers, and with the candidates. And finally, a super interesting insight that Richard also talked about earlier today is users in the Philippines come to Twitter to follow brands and companies. In other words, we are a platform of commercial intent. We're a platform where users are coming to Twitter to not just keep up with one another, not just keep up with mass culture, but to keep up with brands and companies whose goods and services presumably they're interested in, and more than anything, whose personality and point of view and storytelling they're looking to keep up with, which is a reason why our business is in good shape. How many of you have watched Aldub? Raise your hand. I'm sure it's more than that, it's okay. I know you're holding your phones. So the Aldub phenomenon, what's interesting about it is that Twitter, while it's played out across media, Twitter was essential to the experience. If you talk to the producers, if you talk to the broadcaster, if you talk to the talent, you discover that the producers still to this day, and from the beginning of the phenomenon, were responding to the conversation on Twitter. They were detecting in tweets this dynamic between two folks on the show and decided to respond and, of course, work that into the plot. And even today, they do the same. It is a powerful example of what it means to listen to and to co-create with an audience you've built using the mobile microphone that is Twitter. And so it's no surprise that the platform has broken all records worldwide for the amount of conversation we see around television and created big value for the show and for many others. And here's a little bit of a clip, I think. Now, if I were to show a graph of the tweet volumes while this little moment came on air, what you would see is a spike in the conversation. My team talks to television producers around the world who say, we used to wonder, is there a way while a show is on that you could listen to the audience and see what they like and what they don't like? And then came Twitter. giving people a real opportunity to understand that, okay, that moment at 12:10 p.m. was more significant than the moment at 11:50 p.m., even though we had been planning on the moment at 11:50 being what would fuel public conversation. And this, the story of Aldo, is the story of Twitter in the Philippines. And we're delighted to be partnering with them even more. What you see now is they have done, those of you who were watching this weekend, there was a big Valentine's Day integration where you could tweet to the show, to the talent involved, both Alden and Maine, and receive back Valentine's Day, personalized Valentine's Day messages. Just more video for you. And here's a little bit of graph. So this past weekend alone, Valentine's Day weekend alone, we saw more than 4.1 million tweets against just a couple of hashtags. Now, the thing about these numbers is you get used to them in the Philippines. You may say, oh, that's Rishi, that's fine. You probably see those in every country. We don't. These are extraordinary numbers for a conversation on Twitter about culture and about one piece of content. Extraordinary. I was just in the Middle East in Dubai and was telling the story of Twitter in the Philippines, and people said, we need to do that. Now, looking ahead to this year, this is obviously a big year for the country, and you can expect a whole lot more of the same and more from Twitter in the form of partnerships with the media landscape, which will continue to scale and excite our users in the Philippines. We are responding as a company to the energy we've seen in this market. Just about a month ago, we signed a partnership with COMELEC, the Election Commission. What you can expect in general during this election period is an aggressive use of Twitter to understand how the election is going, to use Twitter in television debates. In fact, the debate coming up this weekend, you will see Twitter used in a powerful way, listening to the audience, sourcing questions from the audience, understanding what the mood of the country is. This is not inevitable, right? Again, everyone has choices around the kind of platform they want to work with, but we're delighted that COMELEC, with real personality, if you were here earlier today, you heard James Jimenez talking about how COMELEC tweets as though it's a person. It tweeted the other day that Justin Bieber won a mock election in some district in the Philippines. Justin Bieber was elected president. In a trial election they had. They tweet with personality because that's what they observe on our platform. A platform full of personality, and we applaud them for the way they use Twitter and of course the partnership. What you'll also see is video. I think a lot of folks have asked us in the past why 140 characters. I think in the future people are going to be wondering why 30-second video. Because video is going to become a dominant form of content consumption and expression on the platform, both for users, for publishers, and also for brands. And we're already beginning to see brands respond. That's due to the work of Richard and his organization. In fact, 92% of Philippine users in the Philippines already watch videos on Twitter. This is something that we are increasingly becoming associated with. In fact, we've seen 150x video view growth in the last 12 months. In fact, we are now the fastest growing video platform, I would argue. We have all kinds of video, but the video is all about interaction, it's about virality, and it's about optimization for mobile. If you are a publisher looking to publish high-speed, fast-traveling, engaging interactive video, Twitter's the place to do it. Whether it's on Twitter itself, Periscope, or Vine. And this country's already responded to that, and we're going to meet that energy as well. And of course, a great example of that is you're now seeing periscopes from the timeline. You open Twitter and you can feel live. We in many ways have created the live category in digital media. We are the largest platform in the world that hosts and nurtures live conversation. And the idea that now you can watch a live broadcast from anyone in the world in your timeline is extraordinary, and we're beginning to see the Philippines respond as well. So just in summary, as you think about the past and reflect on what was a powerful year for Twitter in the Philippines, you're going to see more of the same. You're going to continue to see the company invest in partnerships with culture to fuel the ability of every Filipino to connect to their country, to their interests, in a way that will advance even what we did last year. Whether it's the Olympics coming up in Brazil, where I know the Philippines will be representing itself, to engaging the diaspora around the world in a big way, to of course the election this year, to the Philippine Basketball Association, which I was watching the other day on TV, to more with television and Aldab and scaling that example, to other work in faith and during holidays, and of course continued work in entertainment. So I hope that helps, and I'm looking forward to the Q&A period. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Once again, to Twitter's Vice President of Media, Asia Pacific and Middle East, Mr. Rishi Jaitly.